Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the June 30th meeting of the Capital Improvement Committee for the years 2017 through 2022. As usual, we begin with the introductions of everyone here at the head table, and we'll start with you, John.
I'm Jonathan Ork, the Planning and Zoning Administrator for Goffstown.
Mark Lemay, Selectman's Rep.
Gail Brett, Community Member.
Tim Redmond, Planning Board Member and Chairman.
Ray Labor, Community Rep.
Mike Smith, Budget Committee Rep.
We're missing our representative from the school board tonight, and we're missing our Vice Chair, Earl Carroll, who could not make it. First order of business is the minutes from our last meeting of June the 16th. They were distributed tonight with our packet. Does anyone have any questions or comments on the minutes?
I'll move the minutes as presented.
Motion to have the minutes moved as presented by Ray Labor. Any second?
I need to read them. Sorry.
Well, then, would you like to delay the minutes, Mike, or would you like to vote on them tonight?
Can we delay them, please? I just received them.
Okay, seeing no second, the motion fails, and I'll request a motion for the delay.
I'll move that we delay adoption of the minutes until we've had a chance to read them.
Any second for that?
Second.
Second, seconded by Ray. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstention.
Abstentions. The chair votes in favor of delaying them. Jonathan, do you have anything that we need to know about before we get started?
No, I think we're set. You mentioned earlier the potential of possibly having rearranging.
Yeah, I'm going to do that as
Okay.
soon as we clear anything else up that needs to
Nope,
be
should
done.
be all set.
Can I ask a question, Tim?
Please, Mike?
I appreciate the updated spreadsheet of everything, and I'm just wondering, I see a lot of colors this time around. Is there something that significance to the different colors here, or is that,
No, I think the last time I accidentally printed it in black and white, and I didn't want to waste it, so I distributed them as such.
okay, that's fine. I just didn't know if I was. need
Nope,
to
nope, you're not missing
understand.
anything.
Thank you.
Make a note, Christie has joined us. Hi, Christie.
I made it. Hello. Thank you very much.
Okay. Our agenda for tonight is Public Works first, Cemetery Trustees second, and the Sewer Commission third. I spoke with Public Works Director prior to the meeting, and he has graciously made it willing for us to move the Sewer Commission to the top of the chart because they generally have a short presentation. So I'll ask the committee if that's okay with the rest of the committee members.
Yes.
Any opposition? Seeing none, we'll move forward then. So for the Sewer Commission, I see Mike Yergo is here, and we have Ellen Noyes sitting in the background, so you don't necessarily have to identify yourself for the record.
Cool. As you see on the, this year's on the CIP, there's a couple of new items.
Excuse me, Mike, we just got the handout in the packet tonight, so look for your sewer paperwork in your packet tonight that was on the table.
And on the spreadsheet, it starts on page 4 of 8.
I'm glad we'll all get there. Sorry, Mike, for interrupting you.
That's all right.
Okay, please continue.
As you can see on the spreadsheet and on those slips, first thing you'll see is the soil rehabilitation program, which is new to the CIP. The Soil Commission decided to go that route to let everybody know what the cost is and what they're spending. Rehabilitation program consists of trenches technology, replacing sewer mains, and manholes. We did this back in 1986, 84. The Soil Commission decided to TV 35,000 feet of soil line. And with doing that, they did a condition assessment. And that condition assessment dictated what the rehabilitation program could consist of. Because the system was put in from the 1900s, and the bulk of it was put in the 1950s. So with that in mind, for over the past 30 years, we've been doing soil reclamation work for that period of time. Now it's getting, the reclamation cost is getting higher all the time, and now we're mandated under the CMOM agreement from EPA and DES to perform soil rehabilitation and discover problems that we lie in the soil system. So you see different years of operating budgets. These budgets and these numbers are reflected from the DPW road plan for any excavations or point repairs that we have to do prior to the DPW doing reclamation of the road. So basically, we're following the road reclamation program. There'll be streets that are on the reclamation program that don't have sewer, or sewer's already been rehabbed. We take those streets and we turn around, we do trenches technology, pipelining, and sealing of manholes. The sewer system basically is designed for 25 to 30, 40 years, and we're well over some of the sewer lines' aging limit. So the sewer commission in the past 30 years has putting money back in the system to keep the system functional. I don't know if you have any questions about the sewer rehabilitation.
Mike, could you just briefly explain, first of all, the sewer commission is an enterprise fund for the public's knowledge. They do not get tax dollars from the taxpayers in the town of Goffstown.
The money that they collect is from the user fee, which is nothing to do with the tax base or the taxes at all. It's user fee and accessibility fees. It's been like that for the past 35 years.
I just want to make it clear to the public so they know that you're not here asking for tax dollars for
There's
anything.
no tax dollars whatsoever in the fees for the running of the system.
So in your funding source, you have operating funds, and that is from sewer accessibility fees and from user fees that users pay to the system annually.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Make sure everybody understands where the funds come from.
All right.
Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
Mike, one question, please. On the matrix and on the program sheets here, does the program stop in 2021, or do you see something happening in 2022?
Sewer rehabilitation will never end. As long as you have a sewer system, you have to maintain it, keep it operational. It runs 24/7, all the time.
Okay,
It's an aging system. And what you see is that the matrix only went to 2021. It will continue on beyond that.
okay,
That's just on these, the submission sheets, Mike, Ray?
yeah,
They only go to 21, so that's why it's only reflected at 21 in the matrix.
okay.
Same story with the pump station rehab, I take it?
Pump station is, yeah, pump station rehabilitation. We have 4 pump stations here in town. 2 of them were built, one of them was built in 1985, sat dormant for 5 years, was started in operational in 1990. So the pump station on East Union Street is 30 years old, been operating for 25. The Elm Street pump station, we rehabilitated it back in 1990, so that's 25 years old. Elm Street pump station has it's not, what does it say? It's not really up to codes with DES standards anymore. It's an old building, and with that, it's going to get rehabilitated because it no longer be functional as a pump station. That one, looks like we're going to be replacing it, as you can see, back in 2021 is where you get a high number for the sewer projects. It's probably going to be involving purchase of property for the new pump station. Be on the same lot, but it'll be purchasing property. With the pump station right now, basically sits on an easement. So with that in mind, that's the reason why we're rebuilding that one. East Union is the major pump station here in the village. Everything goes from here, from East Union to the Interceptor. And that's 25 years old, and it's aging as well. And with the pump condition, the pump's age, parts are not getting any more availability, and it's electrical. There's electrical systems in it, and ventilation systems in it, which are now, aging, and they're no longer working properly. But these pump stations have to function 24/7.
Just to build on what Mike said, all of Goffstown's wastewater goes to the city of Manchester's wastewater treatment plant. The town does not treat their own wastewater. We simply send it to the city of Manchester, for which Mike can explain how we pay a monthly fee for our process. We also are responsible for updates and upgrades to the Manchester wastewater system as part of our agreement. And if Mike wants to, give a quick summary of that, or if that's good with him.
Yeah, we have a municipal agreement with Manchester. They have one since 1980. With that municipal agreement, they determined that the Goffstown used to have capacity of 2.4 million gallons. And that municipal agreement is a formula that they use for that 2.4 million gallons out of the 24 million gallons they have the capacity for. And that formula, for everything that happens in that plant, you pay your percentage of it. The West Side Pump Station on the Merrimack River, you pay a portion of that pump station, whatever the percentage is. We got 2 monitoring buildings, one in St. A's that the Sewer Commission actually owns, and the other one's on Byron Street, which is run by the city. They both actually run by the city, but we own one of them. And everything that happens to that building, we have to pay for. And that's how, when we get a monthly bill from the city master for all the wastewater flow based on flow, biological oxygen demand, and total suspended solids. That's how we pay for that. Plus any upgrades to the master, we have to pay the portion because of the municipal, it's included in the municipal agreement.
Oh, thank you.
No.
Anybody have any questions for Mike? Everybody good? We thank you, Mike, for coming in, and Ellen,
Yo.
thanks for your time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our next presentation is from Public Works Department, and I'd like to invite Adam up.
Okay, good evening. Thank you.
For the record, it's Adam Jacobs. Well, for the public.
Okay, so with the Department of Public Works, we've got a good amount of items in the CIP every year. We have approximately 50 vehicles and a piece of equipment, construction equipment that we own, and then projects such as the road plan is one project that's ongoing, and then bridge replacements, rehabilitations, other larger infrastructure type projects that we'll find on our projects pages.
Sorry.
So, starting last year, the plan was to, we're coming out of a default budget, the goal was to align our capital improvement plan as best we could with what the default levels were, so we wouldn't see a spike in the tax rate. And I think we did a pretty good job trying to level that out, especially on the vehicle end of things. So what I've done with the vehicle replacement plan is try to carry out all the way through a full replacement of everything we own. And as you can see on the matrix, it basically keeps our vehicle replacement costs pretty level year after year here, at least in the next 6 years, and it doesn't really spike after that, even in the out years. So this previous year that we're in right now, 2016, we replaced some trailers for the solid waste division, some roll-off containers. We purchased an excavator that we had been previously renting to save some money there, and we had our rental credits applied towards that purchase since we knew ahead of time we were going to propose that. We purchased a used dozer, a director vehicle, a used Ford Escape, a new crew cab F550 one-ton plow truck, and then, as I mentioned, a couple trailers for the solid waste division. And then we had an item for our basin repair trailer and equipment, kind of through the process last year with CIP, and I think into the budget committee even, we sort of hemmed and hawed about whether or not to keep that in the CIP. I think in the end, we decided based on the CIP rules that we called it a vehicle because it's registered. So we kept I added all the trailers that we own into the CIP for tracking purposes because they are registered. So you'll see those pop up. We have 6 equipment trailers and a paint trailer that is an enclosed cart, type trailer that carries our road paint and paint machine that we do the line striping for the crosswalks and parking lots with. So the trailers were included. We decided in the end to leave the $25,000 for the basin repair trailer, even though it wasn't going to cost that much. And the deal we made with the budget committee was as many trailers as we could replace for that 25 we would. And we were able to replace 3. So that's good. 3 of the 6 equipment trailers this year were swapped out, and they were in dire need. They were kind of Fred Flintstone, put your feet through and run on the asphalt as you drive down the road. So, moving on to 2017 with our proposed CIP for this year for equipment replacement, we've got two six-wheel full-size dump trucks. These are the last two full-size that do not have stainless steel bodies, so the price will be a little higher than you might see in some of the out years for a six-wheel replacement. So they will receive the plows, the combination stainless bodies, and the vehicle itself. We've got a Bobcat that needs to get replaced, and we're proposing a used, try to save some money there on the purchase, get something that's a year or two old. And one more one-ton Ford F-550. We're looking to get a crew cab for that as well, so try to maximize our ability to get the most number of people to a job site with the least number of vehicles as we can. That vehicle is primarily used by the folks who do our grounds repair and cemetery work, too. So our total this year is $490,000 as opposed to $457,000 last year. Actually, if you look at the project sheet, I believe there's I missed the 3 trailers, so I think the project sheet only has $475,000 in year 2018, if anybody's keeping track on the out years there. Based on looking at sharpening the pencil sort of on the next 5 years or so worth of replacements, we're able to bring down our total project cost for the window from almost $3.3 million last year is what we projected for the 5-year plan with equipment, or the 6-year plan, I'm sorry, down to $3.1 million. So we shaved a couple $100,000 off just by trying to be a little smarter about what we purchase, and if we can go with a used piece of equipment if it's going to work. So that pretty much tells the story on vehicles and equipment. Maybe take any questions on that before I move on to projects, if anybody has any.
Chair.
Please, Mark.
I know there'll probably be a question coming forth on the dump trucks with the plows. How old are those plows? What condition are they in? Can we transfer the plows over to the new trucks if that would be possible?
These two, I think, have been swapped from a previous truck already. So
That's fine.
I talked to our head mechanic, and
Okay. Nope.
hopefully this is, much like the bodies on these 2 trucks. Hopefully it's the last we have to do that. We'll get one more replacement cycle on all of our plows. So
Okay.
we're actually in a pretty good place in the future when we start replacing these 6 wheels.
Thank you.
These will be pretty much a full package this time.
Now, on these 4 items you've requested, is everything on the list that you are looking to purchase, are those vehicles going to go away, or are you going to retain them in the fleet? Any of them?
Those will all be traded in or auctioned, whatever the board decides to do
You're
at
not
the
going
time.
to just
So,
roll them into the fleet and keep them for spares or anything?
no.
Okay, good.
No need at this point for any of those.
I do want to bring to your attention for when you get out to 18, you've got a couple of items in there at 3,500 and 8,000. There is definitions in the Capital Improvement Projects Handbook, and I believe that you can't go any lower than 10,000 if I'm reading it correctly. John, could you confirm that for us?
I will
Or
check
not.
into that.
Take a look.
You can have a look at it later, because it's not for this year, it's for the out years, but I would like you to look at the definitions and make sure that, because I did question last year about the trailers,
Right.
combining them into one lump, which I didn't think was correct, but the committee voted to let it go through, so it went through. But there is a limit, and I believe 10,000 is the lower limit. So these ones that are in here for 35 and 88,000, you may have to look at the definitions and see how they fit. Okay?
Will do.
Any other questions on the vehicle matrix?
Yes, Adam, you talk a little bit about your experience with purchasing used versus new, reliability factors. Do you have any experience with it so far?
Big knock on wood. Haven't had any issues thus far. It's kind of a sweet spot. You try to find something that's just used enough where, you don't get that full sticker shock, but not beat down and worn, especially with construction equipment. It's a pretty fine line.
For example, the Bobcat that you have in here at 40,000, what would a new one cost? Any idea?
Oh, Tim, I don't know what they're going for now, about 65?
68.
68, yeah,
So it is a significant,
it is. And that, the goal would be something that's 2 years old, maybe.
If I could back Adam up a little bit, Ray, there's certain vehicles that you don't want to buy used, because you rely on them, and when you need them, you need them. and there's other vehicles that are incidental to your use, and those are the ones that I'm sure Adam is looking at for a possible use purchase.
Pretty much anything that's not an absolute daily driver or an emergency, you know. The
Gotcha.
plow trucks, we try to go early on, A, because, you know, the nature of the work, most everything is, after a couple of years, got some good salt intrusion, and B, you know, that, for the most part anyway, towns hold on to them, so there's not a huge aftermarket for late models anyway on a fully loaded plow truck. But something that, you know, maybe goes out twice a week or 3 times, or it's the third of 4 vehicles that might go out.
Okay,
That's the kind of place you can find some savings.
thanks.
Now, are you looking at trade-in values, Adam, or are you looking at not trading on the big trucks?
I have included no trade-in allowances at all, just because in the past, I've had an engine blow in a plow truck, you know, while we were in the planning process of replacing it. I've had.
That's not what I'm after. I just want to know is when a new truck arrives, do you trade the old truck in, or does it go to auction by the
Oh,
town's rule?
sorry. Sorry, I thought you were asking about the cost.
No,
of
I know you
the
can't take
allowance,
the,
yeah.
you can't take the trade off of that number.
Yes, in general, my desire is usually to trade in. You know, reduces the amount coming out of CIP.
Right.
Gets, you know, saves that money in case one of the other lines runs over, you know, for that year. You also tend to get the most on a trade-in because the dealer's got their margin that they're making at auction. It's really, you know, lowest common denominator of folks that are looking for equipment out there. So usually we found the best cost coming back as a trade-in. It's really up to the board's decision that, you know, when we get ready to do it. I rarely recommend anything other than trying to trade it in, but sometimes they don't want it, so we're stuck then at that point.
Anything else? John?
Just had one quick question. In 2018, the total I have is 490,000.
Yes, that's one I mentioned on the project sheet. I think I left that 475. It's
Okay.
those 3 trailers that are on there, the $15,000 worth.
Okay, so it's supposed to be
So that's a
490?
typo on the
Okay.
project sheet. Yes, the matrix is correct.
I just wanted to double check, so thank you. That's all I had.
And that also doesn't carry through on the total project cost on the project sheet as well. That should be 3106000.
Excellent, thank you.
And you stated, Adam, that you've tried to work out your matrix so that these vehicles are all mapped out so they are fairly consistent numbers as you move forward in the department?
That's right.
Thank you, that's good planning. Okay, any more questions on the vehicle matrix? Seeing none, we'll move to excuse me, capital projects. What page are we on for capital projects, guys?
4 of 8?
4. Thank you, John.
Okay, so capital projects for us right now, the biggest things are the road plan itself, which is one line, and then we've got a bunch of bridge projects coming up in various stages. So I'll kind of just take them right in order, I guess, as we've got them here. The road plan, you might remember last year, I had asked for $675,000, actually, probably don't remember. I had asked for $675,000, and when it got through the budget process, the selectmen had pulled it out and decided to put a special article on the ballot. And when they were writing the special article language, I think it was just a rounder number anyway to go to 250,000 instead of 225. So special article passed, so we actually got a little bit more than we had asked for last year with the road plan. So as it sits in 2016, we've got $700,000 in the road plan CIP line. So what we try to do with our road money is put the road plan amounts towards reclamation projects. And then we've got a separate line in our operating budget that we try to do resurfacing projects with. And you know, there's a little bit of give and take from the two, but we try to keep it true to the amounts. So we try to do about twice as much on the reclamation as we do on the overlay. So I had started last year the proposal to try to ratchet up our road plan monies up to about $1.4 million over a course of 5 or 6 years, adding $150,000 a year, so it's a little bit more palatable. And what that really would get us up to in the out years here is probably about 5 to 6 miles worth of reclamation projects a year. We've got 135 miles of road that we maintain. So, you know, do the simple math anyway. 5 to 6 miles worth. That's a decent return cycle. You know, a road's getting ready to need some serious work again after 25 years. So probably not to everybody's liking, but it's a pretty good amount of money to be putting towards roads, and a lot of towns don't have that much. So we should feel lucky that we've got that backing from the public. Currently, we can get about 4 miles of road reclaimed a year with our budget. The limiting factor as we start to get into these out years, though, is how much our own crews, we do all the work right now in-house. Save a lot of money, can get a lot more done that way, but at some point we run out of time. So in the out years, probably the last 3 years, 2019 and beyond, it's starting to look like we're going to have to start contracting a road or two a year if we want to continue to beef that up. As we get there, we might find that we're making good headway, and the desire might, maybe we're in a crunch again budget-wise, and maybe we'll level off and just leave it to whatever we can do in-house each year, and maybe we won't ever get up to that 1.4, but as of right now, that's kind of the plan. We are still, believe it or not, putting together a 10-year road plan takes a little bit of time. We're still in the final stages of getting that sorted out. We've got a pretty tentative plan, and the next couple are pretty well hammered out. But I hope to kind of unveil that to the Board of Selectmen here pretty shortly and get their stamp of approval. But the tentative 10-year plan is using these annual amounts to slot the roads that we've got planned coming up. So if there are any major changes in this, through this process, hopefully I'll know that, and then we can, adjust our 10-year plan before we've, nothing worse than telling somebody the road's 4 years away, and then the money's not there, and they turn into a 10-year projection on their road instead of 4. So that's basically where the amounts came in, and that's why the jump this year from what was actually proposed last year. The West Lawn Cemetery expansion, as you might recall, is a 3-year project. We're in year 1 right now. Just talked to the board this week about the money that was allocated this year for fencing. So cemetery trustees have specified, and the board's agreed, we're going to extend the wrought iron fence, or the solid iron fencing that's there now, across the full frontage of the expansion area, across the street from the existing West Lawn Cemetery, all the way to the property pins, basically, and then it will cut in for a couple sections of fence, so it'll close off the front, and then it will give a defined corner to the front corners of the cemetery. And that number is from a quote that the contractor that did the gate already a few years ago has held their number for a couple of years, so that's pretty much what we will spend this year to finish that fencing job. Then the next 2 years, so 2017, this year and next year, $57,000. The $29,000 is for all the landscaping and shrubbery plantings that are going to be done. I think I broke out the actual quantities that are on the tentative plan on the project sheet. 75 plus trees and 700 total shrubs plus flower, perennial plantings. So quite a big difference there when that's all done next summer. And then in 18, the job is to survey the entire area and place markers on corners, try to lay out the grids, and there'll be some mapping that we'll get as a result of that project too. So basically starting as soon as that project's done in 18, we could start burials there. I think I mentioned last year, at current rates, we're in the 3 to 5 year range right now before we're out of space, if they sell as the average the last 3 years. So it's not exactly an emergency, but we were starting to get close, so it's good that we're getting a start on this project.
Adam, is it your crew that does all of the plannings in the new?
We haven't ironed out what the plan is going to be on that. It's budgeted as if we are not going to do it in-house, just because it's so time-consuming, and planting season can be finicky. So we've budgeted as if we're not going to.
Okay.
There may be, you never know what it's going to bring, but
Okay.
we've got a pretty busy year next year with the Main Street job, so I don't think we're going to have a whole lot of folks to be able to send cemeteries way to help.
Okay, thanks.
Adam, just a quick question. It seems like a lot of trees, and I just wonder if that doesn't create issues with the roots taking away plot space, or is that an issue at all for you? I've seen it in other places, and I just...
It can. to be honest, the plans for the plantings aren't developed to the point of actually specifying whether or not they're going to, they're going to get planters like you would see on the side of the street, like a vault for the tree roots to kind of take so they don't spread out. But, that's certainly a concern. Wouldn't want anything too close to an active burial, for sure.
So we'll leave that to the,
Got a year to figure out how they're going to locate the trees. Okay, next on the matrix anyway is, what's easier for you, if I follow the matrix or follow the
Follow,
project
yeah, because
sheets?
that's how it is in our workbook,
Okay.
Adam.
We've got the Parker Station bridge repair. That was a 2016 project. That'll be done. But on 17, the next job is the Uncanunic Mountain Dam repair. That was actually approved last year, made it through Budget Committee, and then as far as the final deliberations. What happened was Department of Homeland Security Emergency Management for the state of New Hampshire dangled the outside possibility of some grant funding for dams. It was under the disaster preparedness realm. They dangled it long enough for us to bring it to the board and ask if, even with a slight chance, if we wanted to postpone it. The state understands with funding, we're not under a mandate right now to get the job done. We were basically a year ahead. We had our plans developed and our contractors, our designers selected and plans developed by their deadline. And I called the state and asked if it would be the end of the world if, we were waiting on grant funding and it didn't happen this year, and they said, we understand. So they're looking to see it funded for next year. So I brought it to the board and said, we've got a chance of this. The board voted to postpone. Why not? It's worth a shot. And about a week and a half, 2 weeks later, the state came back and said that, it's not looking very good. We're pretty full. We're not going to submit, any dam projects because it's a new, FEMA doesn't like to pay for dam work, especially dam work that they feel is, decades of maintenance maybe that were, not done. If they would prefer to work on things that have actually failed in a big storm, or things that could fail but no maintenance issues. This dam, I think, where the ownership was kind of in flux or unknown for several years, not a lot of maintenance was done by either any of the private owners of the lake, and certainly not by the town. So probably not a great candidate, but where we had a chance, we decided to postpone it. So I think the funding cycle could be tempting again this year. It's when they announce these FEMA grants that they're going to have any funding available, it's about the same time that we're getting to the end of the budget. So I'll probably, when it comes to that time, I'll strongly encourage we don't chase it this year, because we don't want to be in the same situation now, and we're over our deadline with the state. So so it's on here for the original amount that we had. We've got a dam safety permit. The design's done, but the safety permit sits on the desk. We didn't want to pay for it for a year earlier than we need it, because it does have a time window associated. So we'll submit the dam safety permit when the budget's approved, and then we'll hopefully be ready to go for the construction season next summer.
Before you go any farther, Adam, so could John, could you have the funding source next to the Uncanunic Dam repairs reflect tax appropriation and slash grant?
I will do that.
That's what's in the margin right now, under the memo section?
Sorry about that.
I thought,
Mike?
I thought we weren't gonna be getting a grant, and.
It's still out there, he hasn't gotten it
Oh, all
yet,
right,
so.
we
if
still
it's
don't know.
possible-
I was hearing, I guess I
Yeah.
heard you wrong. thought
I
it
don't
was
anticipate
not much
it being a
chance of
chance,
getting
but
it.
if for some reason some
Okay.
funding
Maybe it'll
comes up-
fail between now and then we'll get the FEMA money.
There you go.
Because that's what they're waiting for, they're waiting for the dam to fail before they give you the money. So. Go ahead.
The creeks don't rise, right? Next on the list is the Terrell Hill Road Bridge Deck. This was CIPSC approved in 2016 as well. It was deferred as part of the Budget Committee process. We've got money in for 2017 for the estimated design costs associated with that, and that's a full deck replacement. And then the construction itself would be in 2018. We, in some meetings with DOT as part of the rail trail project, they mentioned to us that even though the state aid bridge list is 7 to 8 years out right now, they're already slotted, they do have some some little unknown funding that's available for bridge design. So you can actually submit in the short range for design funds to be reimbursed, knowing that you're not going to get any reimbursement for the construction into that bridge, but it's still, it's an 80-20 split on the design funds. So where we have these that were already on the CIP, Terrell Hill and Henry Bridge, we've submitted for hopeful design funding on those two bridges, which would be an 80% reimbursement on the 92,610 and an 80% on the 50,000 for Henry Bridge. And we've also got two bridges that will be requested to get on the long-term state aid bridge list. One of them is the actual Henry Road Bridge itself. It's probably a $2.5 million bridge to be replaced, the big bridge. So this $50,000 that we're asking for in 2017 is a preliminary study to even see what the extent of what we need to do at that bridge is. That we've got some abutment issues, some of the decking on the bridge itself has got some corrosion, and some of the bearing pads have some issues. So we don't really know the full scope of what that job is going to entail, 5, 6, 7, 8 years out. So we want to spend a little bit of money up front, make sure that we're not putting a $2 million job in the CIP when it might be a $100,000 job.
It's kind of sad, because some of us remember when the bridge got replaced, and it seems like recent history that bridge was rehabilitated when they took the old overhead truss bridge down. Mark?
Is that bridge washed and cleaned like the state bridges are? Do we spend time?
We do not have a regular wash and clean program, so that's probably
Just
something
wondering if
that
that
would
would
behoove us at some point to.
save us down the road, Something to think about.
Sure. Big concern with Henry Bridge is the abutment. So it's functionally obsolete, which the state marks every time they inspect it, but that doesn't really mean it needs to be replaced. That just means it's not as wide as they would like for a bridge to pass full traffic. You have a plow truck with a wing on it. They can't pass another car on the bridge. They have to wait until another car goes. So there are a few, things like that, but that's not a reason to fix a bridge that size, at least in my opinion. But the other, the safety concerns of the abutments are. So we want to spend a little bit of money, make sure we know exactly what we're dealing with, and see if it's a big enough project that we have to request to get on the state list and get that 80% funding. And that'll be, like I said, it's I think 8 years out right now is the first slot they have available. So
I seem to remember problems with the retaining walls for the approaches. Is that part of the overall project? That's come up in the past at CIP, I
it would
remember.
be. There's some
Deterioration of the block?
walls that are haven't held up well to salt from the roads there.
So that's part of the overall project,
That would be.
the approaches on both sides as well? Okay, because that'll,
If I'm not mistaken, I think the southernmost side is worse than, there's one side worse than the other, and I
That's
believe it's,
correct.
I think it's the southern side.
The other bridge that's not on the CIP, but we will be requesting placed on the state aid list, 7, 8 years out, is Center Street. We've got a multi-plate culvert on Center Street right near Locust that is in good shape now, but those can fail pretty quickly, those old galvanized multi-plates. So once they go, it's pretty quick, and you don't want to get shut down. So we'll get that on the list and hopefully get that replaced 2023, 24, that time frame. So moving down Bog Road, we have two bridges on Bog Road. They're not in terrible shape, but we do need to put some money in for a membrane replacement. Has been recommended by Quantum Engineering. So we've got the estimated design amount of $20,000 this year.
is that for both, that number you have
That
in?
includes both, yes.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
thank you.
And then the actual work on both bridges in 2019 for $115,000. And the next item on the list is actually new to CIP. I didn't know enough last year to know what I didn't know. The athletic field project at the DPW facility in the backside of the Barnard property. We're making some pretty good headway there, and it's starting to look like if Parks and Rec really gets the press on, they're going to be trying to use those fields before too much longer. So they've got some water needs, both for irrigation and for eventual field house, potable water use there. I think their plan was to drill a well, because water's not available there. It's not the greatest water source, and that was the other thing I didn't know a year ago, is, the Public Works facility and the transfer station facility water is pretty rough. We have 2 small wells there, and they run dry if we do a lot of vehicle washing, which is a bad thing when you're trying to wash vehicles as often as possible. But more importantly, even with heavy filtration, the water comes out pretty dark. It's very rust laden, a lot of manganese, I guess, in the water too, which is part of the rust. But the facility itself, we have to get bottled water because it's really not suitable for drinking. So we're in a place where we'd like to get water to the Public Works facility, both for our uses there, for washing vehicles, for drinking and wash water, and also if we ever decide that we want to spend some money to sprinkler any of the facility, which is, none of it is sprinklered right now. We've got several $1 million worth of equipment in the main building, and of course the solid waste facilities, which with the recycling and the trash, you never know what people have thrown out, ashes or whatever. So at some point, we may want a project to add sprinkler, and if that's the case, we need a water source too. So there's several reasons we would want to get water into the building. The closest water is on Center Street, right just at Locust as well, pretty close to that multi-plate culvert bridge. So the idea would be for this project, this money is enough for us to in-house extend the water up Elm Street to our entrance, come down the main entrance of Public Works facility, carry through with taps off to the transfer station buildings, and carry through to the main building, and then also stub off for the Parks and Rec ball fields. So if Parks and Rec wants to, either next year or the year after or whatever, in future years, extend down to their athletic fields, they've got a good place to start, and it's not a very far run for them.
So does that run start from Glen Lake School then?
No.
It's on
Isn't
the
that
other
the end of the
side.
lo-
It's
Oh,
on-
you're coming up the other
Coming
way.
the other way, so we'd be coming
Okay.
from the Grassmere system.
Okay.
So it's not, I think I've got on the project sheet the actual run length, but
Yeah, you wrote it in there, Adam.
it would leave,
2,200 linear feet.
yes, yep. That would leave approximately 1,000 feet left for Parks and Rec if they want to extend down to the ball fields, roughly. At a cost that we've been quoted anyway for the materials, it's about $26 a foot, plus our time to actually get it there. But water line's not terribly difficult to run as long as you don't run into ledge. So for another $26,000, Parks and Rec can extend off and get down there. I talked to the director about that, and they were thinking of drilling a well, and I think that's about the same amount of money as a drilled well when you're all said and done with the casing and the pumps and all that. So I think probably as we get further into the budget, you might hear some more from them on that. I know at least one of the selectmen was asking about Parks and Rec Commission funding and whether or not, how the money gets pushed around to make even this first phase happen. And I guess it's up for discussion too, but it ought to be on there either as a shared item or Public Works or Parks and Rec or both. Selectman Lemay, did you have a
You just answered the question. I was going to say, it's a joint effort with DPW and Parks and Rec. I feel pretty strongly that maybe we ought to look more into sharing that joint cost. I know they'll be footed with a pretty hefty $25,000 bill to take it down, but, I mean, maybe they can share some of the wealth.
I certainly wasn't going to presume that, but
We'll see what happens.
that's for bigger seats than mine, that's for sure. And then the last item is East Dunbarton Road Bridge Deck Replacement. That was also bumped out a year. We had originally slotted that for 2017. When we bumped the others, we bumped that out one more year. That is a sister bridge to Tyrrell Hill, so roughly the same scope of work and timeline associated, just inflated the numbers a little bit for one more year on with CPI. But we'll be looking for state aid design reimbursement on that bridge as well. So that's about a $78,000 reimbursement if it's approved. The process for that is once we send up the request for just design money only, the state does get a design cut, so they get a chop on our designs when we get the consultant's design. We send it to them as long as they approve, which we wouldn't have a designer do it if it wasn't something we would stand behind. But as long as they approve, then they'll issue that money according to the DOT. So pretty good program to take advantage of.
Now that they have all that extra gas tax money.
They're flush. So I think that is everything that I had to present, so I'll
So we can back up for
Questions?
1 second here. Adam, does anybody have any questions about any of the capital projects that Adam has presented? Ray,
No,
looks like-
but one that might be related to it.
Go ahead, Ray.
No, just, Adam, I'm trying to understand with Park and Recs, when they made their presentation, they talked about a lot of the work going on down at the new sports complex as being kind of like a teamwork approach between your group and Parks and Rec.
That's right.
I think drainage was one of them, elevations on the fields and that sort of thing. Is there any impact at all to the work that you're doing in support of Parks and Rec? When we look at what you've got listed here for capital projects, is
As far as
we scheduled, we need to
Time or
defer
schedule?
anything?
from a time perspective, just the amount of time. it's
Yeah,
taking
and
us to
perhaps
chip in?
cost to Selectman Lemay's comment a moment ago.
Right now, all the costs, aside from labor, are being borne by Parks and Rec, and they've got certain impact fees that are expiring, and I guess they've got a pretty good handle on how much they need to spend. Thus far, anyway, they've had more funds in those expiring impact fees than we've been able to spend, so we've been trying to stockpile, material for the drainage or piping as we can to kind of get to that full amount for them. But I don't know, as we get further along and they really try to ramp up, I think they're going to be out of funding, so I'm not sure if their revolving fund is, I don't want to speak, I guess, for Parks and Rec Commission. I'm not sure on their funding mechanism anyway, what their plan is when they really start to spend on the field house and the actual, the diamonds that need a lot of, irrigation work and all that. On the timeline end of things, if we have another winter like we had, we'll make great headway. If we have a terrible winter where it starts October 31st and ends on April Fool's like we had a few years back, then not so much. This past winter was great. We were able to, you might remember, we had stormwater management ponds for a few years on the CIP, $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 a pop, planned anyway. We had done one, swallowed the bitter pill. Well, last year we decided to pull Aileen off of the list and take all the detention ponds out of CIP, try to do it in-house and just see how it went, and we did. It was a great year to do it. Good, we lucked out as far as the scheduling goes. We got it done, and I think the final cost was around $20,000 or $18,000. Time intensive. So same thing with the athletic fields, and this year with Roy Park as well. So kind of pulled in a lot of these little directions, and helping out with the fire station. Certainly, my perspective is we'll do it until we just absolutely can't do anymore, and we haven't reached that point yet. So my guys are probably screaming at home if they're watching this on TV. But it's a good problem to have,
Fair
I guess, if we have the time.
Thank you
to
for
do
the
it.
background.
Sure.
Any other questions? Comments?
Good job.
Nice job.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right, Adam, thank you for coming in.
Oh, that was
Did you
it.
have anything else?
I just
tonight?
had the cemetery project, so I'm assuming
Well, you already brought up the
they're going to let me
fencing,
go.
so is
That's
that,
right. That's right. That's all the cemetery trustees have planned are those next two years in that. in
so just
on
for the
projects.
record, the cemetery trustees were on the schedule for tonight, and in the past, the trustees sometimes come, but Adam or the Public Works Director generally speaks on behalf of the trustees and brings their projects forward, which has been done tonight. So the next one on our list, cemetery trustees, has been covered, as far as I'm concerned. So if we have any questions, we're going to begin our deliberations. If we have any questions or callbacks, we'll notify you by way of John, so you have time to prepare any answers for us that we may have requested, so you won't have to come in here and try to answer questions cold turkey. Give you a chance to prepare.
Dust off my
and,
tap shoes.
But in 11 years, I don't think we ever called anybody back, so we'll see what happens.
Uh-oh, now the stakes are high. Don't want to be the first. Okay.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you
Thanks
very
a lot,
much.
Adam.
Have a good night.
I guess the sewer department's worksheet, I guess we'll just put that, I'm gonna put mine in the public works section because it's convenient, and the sewer department's rehabilitation program is aligned with the road reconstruction program. And I can speak to this because I was just recently elected a sewer commissioner, and I am at the sewer meetings, and I understand the planning procedure. Reason being is they don't want to pay for asphalt that the town's gonna tear up next year to rebuild the road, so they align with the Public Works Department's road schedule.
Good idea.
So Tim, as a member of the commission,
Yes, sir.
and I should have asked this question of Mike, for the layman, what is involved with the rehabilitation of a pump station? What kind of systems are in there? Is it electrical, heating? What goes into it? What's the gazumba?
All of the above.
The pump station always has to have dual pumping, because if one pump was ever to fail, you have to have a backup pump to pump it. So you have alternating pumps in pump stations. You have electrical to operate the systems, floats and alarms and such. You have a heating system to keep the pump house warm where all the electronics and all are. Pump houses are highly corrosive because of what goes into the pump house and what goes out the other end to go to the main pumping station and onto the interceptor to pump down to Manchester. It's a very almost toxic environment in there in terms of rust and moisture. Pump stations themselves need to be maintained, and they do have a lifespan like anything has. So in order to rehabilitate a pump station, rehabilitate one, as I got it from Mike, you have to take one, you can't take it out of offline while you build a new one. You have to build a new one adjacent to it and then do a swap over to keep the system operating. So I think that's what Mike was talking about in terms of purchasing property, to
Yep.
build a new pump station next to the existing one, so that when you take one offline and put the other one online, there's no interruption of the sewer service. Because we all know what that would end up being, unhappy customers.
So emergency generators part of the
Everyone,
systems? Yeah.
yep, every pump station has its own generator in the event of a power outage. You
Okay.
have to maintain the power, because the sewerage flows to the pump station whether the power is off for 10 minutes or 10 days. So you have to keep the sewerage moving.
Okay.
So there's a lot of moving parts, and the town, from what I understand, has 4 pump stations. And we just discussed at our last meeting, there's a piece of property in Pinardville in,
Moose Club?
Moose Club, thank you.
You're welcome.
There's down next to Andre Street, the sewer commission actually owns a parcel of land down there for a possible future expansion of the sewer in that part of town where another pump station would have to be located, a brand-new one.
Okay.
So there's a lot going, not Moose Club, the first one.
It's Moose Club. Moose Club, Lynchville, Danis.
Okay, then it is Moose Club.
Yeah.
Is Andre Street in Moose?
Yes.
Okay, that's where it's on, off of, right near Andre.
Okay.
So, the sewer commission has revenues, and it's important that the taxpayers understand that it is an enterprise fund. But then again, they're entitled to know where all the money is going as far as and the ratepayers need to know where the money's going. That's why the sewer commission comes in and makes a presentation to let the ratepayers know where their funds are being spent for their quarterly bills or however it goes.
Great.
And assessment fees for hookups and hookup fees.
Thanks.
Anything else? Well, we'll turn to the schedule, which is the first page in your book. We have scheduled for Thursday, July the 7th, callbacks and deliberative workshop and a photo for the town report. So everybody can come with your Sunday best on.
Your best dress.
Or your photo. No ties are necessary, only John has to wear a tie, because he's our professional. If anybody wants to have a callback, if they have a serious question, John needs to know prior to the meeting night. And I'm as chair, I'm happy to let anybody respond directly to John. You do not have to go through the chair. And John will make the necessary connections with the presenters to provide any information that may be requested.
Does anybody not have my contact information that needs it?
Well, I think if you just call 497-8990, you'll get John. Are you
Should do
extension
it.
117?
That's Patty.
Same thing. Excuse me.
I will,
That'll work.
I will pass that message on to Chairman Georgianis, and
Okay.
if he has any questions, I will have him contact John. How's that?
Sounds good.
Generally speaking, we have 3 scheduled deliberative workshops at CIP. The process has been very well run over the department heads over the last few years. We don't have nearly the amount of requests to wade through that we did years back. So I'm very confident that in no more than 2 deliberative sessions, we will be able to go through the requests, work on the matrix to see if we feel we need to move anything out, and review the priorities, because we always review the priorities as part of the process.
Great.
And then when the committee is ready to forward the document to the planning board, we will vote officially as a committee, and then we'll move forward from there. I make the presentation to the planning board, and all the committee members are encouraged to come to the planning board meeting that night to support the work that we do here on Thursday nights when everyone else is generally home in the summertime. We're down here doing our Thursday duty. Anybody have anything else for this evening? Mike?
Tim, just looking ahead to that meeting, I don't have any requests for comments, but it would be helpful to me, I guess, rookie question, if you will. Is it, or do you normally put together, here's what's changed between last year's final and what's proposed this year?
It's in the
Might be
matrix. It's in the matrix right now. You'll see what was approved in 16
okay.
and what wasn't. There's an old matrix. You gave us a copy of last year's matrix in the back of the book, right?
It is in the back of the book.
So last year's matrix is in your book.
16 numbers, yeah.
Okay.
If you go to your book, Mike, the very first matrix in your book should be the final matrix that was approved at this committee meeting a year ago.
Last year.
All right.
And that matrix shows everything that went from 16 to 20, I believe, or 21, rather, and everything that was recommended to the planning board at the 99th hour. And then you can compare that to this year's matrix, which shows what the Board of Selectmen and the voters approved. And you can see what went through and what didn't make it through.
Okay. That's the 9, 10, 15 matrix, I guess?
Yes, it
Yeah.
would be 15, yes.
All right, thank you.
Does it say submitted to the planning board on the top? Yeah, planning board working matrix.
Planning board adopted matrix 9, 10. Thank you.
Yep. And then you can see what the planning board adopted based on our recommendations. And if you go to the matrix we have now, you can see what made it through the budget process and the select board process and any votes that, well, for instance, the road plan became a warrant article as opposed to
Yep.
a CIP budget committee item. And if you have any questions, my number's on the phone sheet there, Mike. Feel free to call me if you want, or
Okay.
John is our
Thank you.
professional. You can call John. Either way, it doesn't matter to me.
No, thank you.
Anybody else have anything to bring up for the meeting tonight? If not, I'll ask for a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion to adjourn, seconded by Gail. Does anyone have anything else to bring forward? Otherwise, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. We are adjourned.